If you ask most people about ancient Africa, they'll picture Egypt. The pyramids, the pharaohs, the Nile winding through desert sands. That's where the story seems to begin, and all too often where it ends. But Africa's real story is so much richer and stranger than you've ever been taught. Across this vast continent are stone cities in what's now Zimbabwe, royal courts hidden in the forests of Nigeria, and lost kingdoms whose walls still stand after 1,000 years. Some of these civilizations built trading networks that reached farther than many modern supply chains, linking Africa with Arabia, India, and even China, centuries before European explorers set sail. On Armchair Archaeology, we're leaving the Nile behind to uncover Africa's forgotten empires, lost worlds that shaped art, technology, and even the borders we know today. And stick around, because before we're done, I'll show you a discovery so shocking, it's forcing historians to rewrite everything they thought they knew about Africa's ancient past. Ready to see the continent and its history in a completely new light? Let's dig in. And hey, if uncovering forgotten histories excites you as much as it does me, hit that subscribe button so you're here when we unearth the next ancient mystery. Travel south along the Nile from Egypt and you'll reach the ancient land of Nubia, in what is now northern Sudan. Thousands of years ago, before Rome rose or Greece built its temples, the Kingdom of Kush flourished here, shaping African and world history in ways few textbooks mention. Here's something wild. Most people think Egypt ruled the Nile, but there was a time Egypt got conquered by its southern neighbor. Kush wasn't the shadow of Egypt, but a true rival. Their capital cities like Napata and later Meroe became centers of trade and culture. The Kushites built more than 200 pyramids, actually outnumbering Egypt's famous monuments. These weren't copies either. The Kushite pyramids rise steep and slender from the desert, their style unique, their stones telling a different story about how ancient Africans imagined the afterlife. Long before modern debates about representation and identity, Kushite rulers made a mark that still resonates today. In the 8th century BCE, they marched north and seized the Egyptian throne. For nearly a century, black pharaohs from Kush ruled as Egypt's 25th dynasty, blending African and Egyptian traditions into new art, architecture, and ideas. Statues from this period depict powerful pharaohs with distinctly African features, directly challenging assumptions about who shaped the Nile Valley. Imagine scrolling through history books and realizing, wait, these weren't just pharaohs, they were African kings rewriting the story of Egypt itself. But empires rise and fall. When the Assyrians invaded, Kush retreated south. Yet instead of fading away, they reinvented themselves around Meroe. Here, they built a vibrant civilization that lasted nearly 900 years longer, developing unique writing, iron technology, and art that influenced later African kingdoms. Modern excavations still reveal new Kushite secrets. Archaeologists recently uncovered a pyramid with a burial chamber painted in colors that remain vivid after more than 2,000 years. A reminder that, like the colors of Kush, Africa's past is far brighter and more complex than most people imagine.
If you travel along the Red Sea coast in what's now Somalia or Eritrea, you're tracing the edges of a lost world that captivated the pharaohs, the Land of Punt. For more than 1,000 years, Egypt's rulers sent trading expeditions to Punt, returning with gold, incense, ivory, and wild animals, goods so valuable they transformed entire economies. Ancient reliefs in Egypt show not just exotic cargo, but images of foreign kings, stilted houses, and lush groves, a snapshot of a wealthy society few outsiders ever saw. What's remarkable is how vivid Punt remains in Egypt's memory, even though almost nothing of the civilization itself has survived above ground. No grand ruins, no royal tombs, and not a single inscription in their own language have been found. Instead, all we have are Egyptian paintings and the precious goods that found their way north: baboons, trees, spices, and gold, all hinting at a place of great sophistication and power. Recently, scientists tracing the origins of ancient mummified baboons in Egyptian tombs found genetic markers matching East African populations, drawing a new map of ancient trade, and confirming that Punt was indeed more than a legend. So picture this, ancient Egyptians basically fanboying over Punt's wealth, yet we still don't know exactly where it was. That's like not knowing where New York City is 3,000 years from now. It's a modern detective story, echoing how we use DNA to track supply chains and connections in our own time. Punt's story is a powerful lesson in how some of the most influential societies can leave almost no trace except through the memories of their trading partners. It also shows how much of African history remains hidden, not lost, but waiting to be rediscovered with the right question or the right scientific tool. In the mystery of Punt, the past and present connect, reminding us that even the most important chapters of history can slip just out of sight.
Journey into the heart of what is now central Nigeria, and you'll find traces of one of Africa's oldest and most mysterious civilizations, the Nok. More than 2,500 years ago, the Nok people were building villages in the grasslands and forests, leaving behind artifacts that still baffle archaeologists today. While the Greeks were laying the foundations of philosophy, the Nok were firing clay and forging iron, creating some of the world's earliest evidence of ironworking south of the Sahara. What sets the Nok apart is the artistry they left behind. Scattered across the landscape are terracotta sculptures with strikingly expressive faces, each one different, many adorned with elaborate hairstyles, jewelry, and mysterious symbols. These life-sized heads and figures are not just relics, but windows into ancient beliefs, status, and identity. Some of their artistic details wouldn't look out of place in a modern gallery, showing how human creativity transcends time and culture. Unlike Egypt or Kush, the Nok left no written records and built no palaces or pyramids. The story of their world comes almost entirely from the fragments they buried: statues, iron tools, and traces of lost villages. Yet those clues reveal an advanced society, one that mastered metalworking long before many other regions, changing agriculture and daily life across West Africa. Modern science is helping to fill in the blanks. Scientists used a special dating method to check how long the clay's been buried, and guess what? Some Nok art is centuries older than we thought. And here's the crazy part. These statues are over 2,000 years old, but some look like they belong in a modern art museum. Kind of makes you wonder how much we've really advanced, right? As today's artists and historians revisit Nok motifs, they draw inspiration from the past, proving that ancient innovation continues to shape creative minds. The Nok remind us that even without grand monuments, a civilization's spirit can survive for millennia in artistry, technology, and the silent legacy of clay and iron. And if you love uncovering these kinds of hidden stories, I've pulled together even more in my book, Secrets of the Ancient World: Mysteries, Technologies, and Lost Civilizations. It dives into the forgotten tech and trade links that shaped these empires. Check it out. Links in the pinned comment.
Travel to the highlands of what is now southern Zimbabwe, and you'll find the massive stone ruins of Great Zimbabwe, one of Africa's most impressive and least understood cities. Built between the 11th and 15th centuries, Great Zimbabwe was once the heart of a powerful kingdom, its stone walls rising over 30 feet high and stretching for hundreds of meters, all without the use of mortar. Even today, these walls curve gracefully through the hills, proof of engineering skill that rivals any monument of the medieval world. The city thrived on trade, controlling the flow of gold, ivory, and cattle between Africa's interior and the bustling ports of the Swahili coast. Archaeologists have found shards of Chinese porcelain, Middle Eastern glass, and even coins from distant lands among the ruins, a silent record of a globalized economy long before globalization was a buzzword. Great Zimbabwe was a true urban center with towers, marketplaces, and royal compounds that pulsed with life. And here's where history gets ugly. For centuries, outsiders refused to believe that Africans could have built such a city. Colonial-era myths insisted that it must have been the work of Phoenicians, Arabs, or even lost survivors of Atlantis, erasing African achievement from the story. But patient archaeology, oral tradition, and the pride of modern Zimbabweans have reclaimed the truth.
It was the ancestors of today's Shona people who built and ruled Great Zimbabwe, using local stone and ingenuity passed down through generations. Recent research continues to surprise. A section of the ancient wall was recently discovered to have subtle geometric patterns, a sophisticated touch echoing architectural traditions seen in modern Southern African homes. Great Zimbabwe's story isn't just about the past, it's about reclaiming history, challenging stereotypes, and seeing African heritage as a living, evolving force. If you're loving how these lost stories are finally being reclaimed, you can help keep this research-focused content going with the super thanks. Every bit helps me keep digging into the past and sharing it with you.
High in the green highlands of what is now northern Ethiopia, the Kingdom of Aksum rose to become one of the ancient world's true superpowers. Flourishing from the 1st century CE, Aksum commanded trade routes linking Africa to Arabia, India, and the Mediterranean, making its markets some of the most cosmopolitan on the continent. At a time when Rome and Persia were locked in rivalry, Aksumite coins, struck in gold and silver, were turning up as far away as India. Aksum's skyline was dominated by soaring stone obelisks, some towering over 80 feet. Carved from single pieces of granite, these stelae are still among the largest stone monuments ever erected without modern machinery. Their purpose remains partly mysterious, but they marked royal tombs in sacred sites, an ancient skyline that even today awes visitors and architects alike. Aksum's influence was more than economic or architectural. In the 4th century CE, King Azana embraced Christianity, making Aksum one of the very first Christian nations in the world, well before much of Europe. The tradition remains alive. Ethiopia is home to some of Christianity's oldest churches, many still standing, filled with vibrant rituals and unique manuscripts. And wait till you hear this. Some believe the Ark of the Covenant might still be hidden in Aksum. Whether that's true or not, you can bet treasure hunters are obsessed with the idea. Recent excavations are rewriting the story yet again. Beneath the city of Aksum, archaeologists have found layers of even older settlements, revealing that the region's urban history stretches back further than previously believed. And with the legend of the Ark of the Covenant said to rest in Aksum's churches, the kingdom continues to inspire seekers of mystery and faith from across the world. Today, Aksum's legacy is not just a point of pride for Ethiopians. It's a reminder that Africa was home to empires whose influence shaped both the ancient and the modern worlds, and whose stories are still unfolding.
Venture deep into the Sahara Desert, across what is now southwest Libya, and you'll encounter traces of a civilization that turned one of the world's harshest landscapes into a flourishing oasis. The Garamantes, long overlooked in the story of Africa, built an urban society in the desert's heart more than 2,000 years ago, at a time when Rome was still rising to power. The Garamantes' greatest achievement was their mastery of water. Using a network of underground tunnels called pharaohs, they tapped ancient aquifers, channeling cool, life-giving water to fields of wheat, date palms, and even vineyards. With this technology, they built cities and villages where none should have existed, turning barren sand into green farmland. Seriously, these guys hacked the desert 2,000 years before we started talking about sustainable tech. In today's world of climate anxiety and water shortages, the Garamantes offer a model of how ancient innovation tackled environmental extremes. Their capital, Garama, was a crossroads for trade. Gold, salt, slaves, and exotic goods flowed from sub-Saharan Africa to the Mediterranean world. Roman historians described the Garamantes as fierce charioteers and elusive desert raiders. But archaeology has revealed something more. Remnants of pyramidal tombs, evidence of written scripts, and traces of complex urban planning, all buried beneath centuries of shifting sand. Unlike the bustling cities along the Nile, the Garamantes' towns faded as the Sahara expanded and their water sources dwindled.
Yet their underground irrigation systems are still studied today by engineers seeking sustainable solutions in arid lands. Recent satellite imagery and desert excavations have uncovered entire lost settlements, complete with streets, cemeteries, and ancient wells. Hidden stories only visible from the air. Follow Africa's eastern shoreline from southern Somalia to northern Mozambique, and you'll trace the path of the Swahili coast, a place where African, Arab, Persian, and even Chinese worlds collided for over 1,000 years. Starting around the 8th century CE, city-states like Kilwa, Mombasa, and Lamu blossomed into cosmopolitan hubs, their harbors alive with the sails of merchant ships from across the Indian Ocean. The Swahili city-states thrived on trade. Gold, ivory, and spices flowed out, while ceramics, silk, and beads arrived from as far as China and India. The cities themselves became architectural marvels. Grand stone houses, coral-built mosques, and intricate marketplaces lined narrow, winding streets. Swahili culture blended African roots with influences from Arabia and Persia, giving birth to a language, Swahili, still spoken by millions today and written for centuries using Arabic script. For a long time, outsiders dismissed these cities as the creations of foreigners. Colonial powers like Portugal and Britain downplayed or even erased local achievements, burning archives and claiming ruins as their own. But excavations tell another story. The people of the Swahili coast built vibrant, independent societies. One recent find, a sunken Chinese ship from the Ming Dynasty era discovered off the Kenyan coast, contained porcelain identical to pieces found in Kilwa's ruins. It's a reminder that the Swahili world was plugged into global networks centuries before globalization became a buzzword. Oh, and if you've ever danced to Swahili music or tried coastal East African food, you're literally tasting history. Today, the legacy of these city-states lives on, not just in ruins and relics, but in music, language, and food that unite Africa's East Coast. Modern Swahili culture is a living testament to how migration, connection, and creativity have shaped societies for generations. Looking at the Swahili coast, we see how Africa's past is woven into our global present and how the tide of history keeps rolling ashore. And if you're fascinated by how these trade networks linked far-flung kingdoms, I dive much deeper into it in Secrets of the Ancient World. You'll find the link in the pinned comment. At the meeting point of the Limpopo and Shashe rivers, where present-day South Africa, Zimbabwe, and Botswana meet, rises a sandstone hill that once crowned the Kingdom of Mapungubwe. Between the 11th and 13th centuries, Mapungubwe became southern Africa's first great state, laying the foundation for later empires like Great Zimbabwe. Life in Mapungubwe was sophisticated and deeply stratified. The ruling class lived atop the sacred hill, separated from commoners below, foreshadowing modern patterns of wealth and power. Royal graves uncovered by archaeologists yielded treasures, glass beads from India, Chinese porcelain, and most famously, a tiny gold rhinoceros crafted with astonishing detail. Imagine holding that, smaller than your hand, but powerful enough to rewrite Southern Africa's history. This symbol of kingship, hidden for centuries and now displayed in a South African museum, bridges past and present, proof that African goldsmiths were masters of their craft long before colonial contact. But for decades, Mapungubwe's story was kept in the shadows. Colonial authorities actively hid the site's discoveries, fearing that evidence of a powerful ancient African kingdom would challenge racist myths about the continent's history. Only in recent decades has Mapungubwe's legacy become widely celebrated, inspiring artists, musicians, and even banknote designers across southern Africa. Recent archaeological digs have pushed the kingdom's timeline back further and revealed clues of a complex trading web reaching as far as India and the Middle East. Ancient farming terraces and irrigation systems are now being studied for their resilience to drought, a pressing lesson in an age of climate change. The rise and fall of Mapungubwe remains partly mysterious, but its story offers a window into how societies adapt, flourish, and leave echoes in the land. From a gold rhinoceros to forgotten terraces, Mapungubwe's legacy continues to shine, reminding us that Africa's ancient past still shapes its future. What do you think? Were these terraces early climate engineering or just smart farming for the time? Drop your theory in the comments.
In the rain-soaked forests of what is now southern Nigeria, the Kingdom of Benin flourished for centuries, building a city so advanced that it stunned even European visitors. Founded over 1,000 years ago, Benin City was famous for its immense earthwork walls, an interconnected system of moats and ramparts said to stretch for thousands of kilometers, making it one of the world's largest man-made structures before the modern era. These defenses encircled a metropolis of broad streets, orderly neighborhoods, and bustling markets. At the heart of Benin was its royal court, where the Oba, king, ruled over a network of skilled guilds and artisans. Their greatest legacy is the Benin bronzes, hundreds of intricately cast plaques and sculptures made from brass and ivory, depicting everything from royal ceremonies to moments of daily life. These artworks, dazzling in their detail and creativity, are now celebrated as masterpieces of world heritage. Modern artists across Africa and beyond continue to draw inspiration from their elegance and storytelling power. Yet Benin's golden age ended abruptly in 1897 when British forces invaded the city, looting thousands of bronzes and burning much of the capital. For decades, colonial powers tried to erase Benin's achievements or claim them as their own. But ongoing archaeological work and global calls to return the bronzes have put Benin's story back at the center of conversations about restitution and cultural pride. Recent excavations have revealed even more about Benin's vast city walls and urban planning, technologies that echo in modern megacities today. With every new discovery, the myth that Africa's achievements must have come from elsewhere grows weaker. The story of Benin isn't just about loss. It's a story of resilience, creativity, and a heritage that refuses to be forgotten, one that still inspires movements for justice and recognition across the globe.
Travel north along the Nile into present-day Sudan, and you'll encounter the haunting pyramids of Meroe. Here, from around 300 BCE to 350 CE, the Meroitic Civilization flourished, building on the legacy of Kush while forging its own vibrant culture. More than 40 steep-sided pyramids rise from the sands, marking the resting places of kings, queens, and nobles whose stories are still being pieced together. Meroe was renowned for its iron industry. Ancient furnaces turned out tools and weapons that powered agriculture, warfare, and trade, making the city a hub of innovation in Africa's Iron Age. The kingdom's queens, known as Candaces or Candaces, sometimes ruled as sovereigns or led armies into battle, an early example of female leadership that feels remarkably modern. But Meroe's greatest mystery lies in its script. Carved into temple walls and funerary stelae, the Meroitic alphabet remains undeciphered, defying linguists for more than a century. Each new inscription found by archaeologists is a tantalizing clue, a message from the past waiting for the right key. Imagine if we could suddenly read these ancient texts, the history of a lost world could come alive in its own voice. The kingdom's decline, like its origins, is still debated. Shifting trade routes, changing climate, or external invasion may have played a role. Yet, even as the sand swallowed its cities, Meroe's influence endured in art, technology, and legend. Today, the site of Meroe is a magnet for both scientists and adventurers, a reminder that many of history's secrets are still out there. And with each archaeological season, there's a renewed hope that someone, somewhere, will finally unlock the code and let the voices of Meroe speak again, reconnecting ancient puzzles to modern quests for understanding.
We started by challenging the idea that Africa's ancient history is all about Egypt.
Now, you've seen how the continent's lost civilizations built empires, engineered wonders, and connected people across deserts, forests, and oceans. But before we go, let's close the loop on that one artifact that's changing everything we know about Africa's past. Recently, archaeologists uncovered a small, gold-sealed ivory ring in Mapungubwe, southern Africa's oldest kingdom. What's astonishing isn't just its beauty, but what it reveals. Scientific analysis showed the gold came from local mines, while the ivory's chemical signature matched elephant herds far to the east, near the Swahili coast. Then, almost miraculously, a nearly identical ring turned up at a ruined port city on that very coast, thousands of kilometers away. By combining ancient craftsmanship with modern science, DNA, isotopes, and satellite mapping, researchers have pieced together evidence of long-distance trade and shared artistry stretching across vast distances. It's proof that African societies were more connected, innovative, and outward-looking than most history books ever acknowledged. This single discovery has sparked new collaborations between African museums, scientists, and communities, rewriting our understanding of where lost civilizations fit in the world. And now you know. The tiny ivory and gold ring from Mapungubwe isn't just jewelry, it's the missing link connecting trade, art, and innovation across half a continent. So next time you hear ancient Africa and think only of pyramids, remember there are stories in the stone walls of Zimbabwe, the sunken harbors of the Swahili coast, and the undeciphered scripts of Meroe. These mysteries are not relics, they are living legacies, still shaping how we see the world and ourselves. Which civilization or artifact surprised you the most? Share your thoughts below and let us know what you want to explore next. Your suggestion might even become the next video. And if you're as curious about the past as I am, hit subscribe so you'll be here when we uncover the next ancient mystery together. Until next time, keep questioning, stay curious, and remember, in Africa, history isn't lost. It's waiting to be found, sometimes just beneath your feet.